Hello, myself Bhumika Sharma, and I welcome you all to my YouTube channel, Analytical Instrumentation. Today's topic is Introduction to Spectroscopy. You will be able to learn basics of spectroscopy, electromagnetic radiations, their interaction with matter, energy levels, process of transition, EMR spectrum and its usage for spectroscopic methods, types of energy transfer, types of EMR interactions, classification of spectroscopic techniques, and basic components of spectroscopic instruments. Firstly, we will discuss what spectroscopy is. Spectroscopy is the study of interaction between electromagnetic radiations and matter. Spectroscopic analytical methods are based on measuring the amount of radiation produced or absorbed by molecular or atomic species of interest. Based on this thing, spectroscopy is divided into two: atomic spectroscopy, which involves atomic emission spectroscopy, atomic absorption spectroscopy, and molecular spectroscopy, which involves UV visible, FTIR, etc. Electromagnetic radiations. Electromagnetic radiations possess wave properties that are wavelength, frequency, velocity, and amplitude. But this wave model fails to account for phenomena associated with the absorption and emission of radiant energy. For these processes, electromagnetic radiations can be treated as discrete packets of energy or particles called photons or quanta. Hence, electromagnetic radiation possesses both the wave nature as well as the particle nature. Figure 8 shows the electromagnetic radiation. It possesses two fields, two oscillating fields, electric field and magnetic field, which are always perpendicular to the direction of propagation as well as to each other. Figure B shows oscillating wave in electric field. The ascending part of the wave is known as the crest. The descending part of the wave is known as the trough. Wavelength is the distance between two adjacent crests, and the highest vector of the wave is known as amplitude. Other terms include frequency, which is the number of oscillating waves within 1 second, and important EMR terms are, I have already discussed about wavelength, amplitude and frequency. Yeah, wave number describes the number of completed wave cycles per distance and is typically measured in centimeter inverse. Electromagnetic radiation interaction with matter. The interaction of electromagnetic radiation with matter is a quantum phenomena which I have already discussed. It depends upon the particle nature of the wave, and the interaction will depend on both the properties of the radiations as well as the properties of the sample. The photon is the elementary particle responsible for electromagnetic phenomena. It carries the electromagnetic radiation and has properties of a wave as well as of a particle. As a particle, it interacts with matter by transferring its energy. You all are familiar with Einstein equation. E is equals to hc over lambda, where h is the Planck constant, that is equal to 6.63 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule per second, and lambda, as I have already discussed, is the wavelength. Thus, frequency is related to the wavelength via the speed of light c. C is equals to 2.998 into 10 to the power minus 8 meter per second in vacuum. Frequency is equals to c over lambda. Hence, E is equals to h nu. From these equations, we can conclude that energy is inversely proportional to the wavelength and directly proportional to the frequency. Process of transition. There are three basic processes by which a molecule can absorb radiation. In all these cases, the molecules are raised to a higher internal energy level. The increase in energy being equal to the energy of the absorbed photon. The three types of internal energy are rotational energy levels, vibrational energy levels, and electronic energy levels. A represents the rotational energy levels. As you can see there, the energy gap is minimum in rotational energy levels and is maximum in the electronic energy levels. B represents the vibrational energy levels, whereas C represents the electronic energy levels. The electromagnetic spectrum and its usage for spectroscopic methods. The different types of radiations are X-ray, UV, visible, IR, microwave, and radio wave. As I have already discussed that energy is inversely proportional to the wavelength. Hence, if we arrange them according to their wavelength, the lowest wavelength will be of the electronic transition, then vibrational, and the highest wavelength will be of rotational transition. X-ray absorption and UV visible absorption possess change in electronic states. IR and Raman depends on change in molecular, rotational, and vibrational states, whereas NMR and ESR will depend upon change in the rotational states, that are electron spin or nuclear spin. The relative energy levels of the three transition processes are in the order highest of electronic, then vibrational, then rotational. Rotational transition can take place at very low energies, thus they lie in longer wavelength region, that is microwave or far infrared region. But vibrational transition require higher energy in the and lies in the infrared to near infrared region, while electronic transition requires highest energy and lie in the lower wavelength region from that is visible and ultraviolet regions. Types of transition energy transfer. The sample is predominantly in its lower energy or ground state. It is stimulated by applying energy in the form of heat, electrical energy, light, particles, or chemical reaction. The stimulus then causes some of the analyte species to undergo a transition to a higher energy or excited state. The different types of energy transfers are absorption spectroscopy, emission spectroscopy, chemiluminescence, and photoluminescence. In absorption spectroscopy, we measure the amount of light absorbed as a function of wavelength. Absorption measurement can give both qualitative and quantitative information about the sample. We'll discuss about that using a diagram. In absorption spectroscopy, analyte in the ground state will absorb the radiation, and this radiation is measured, which is required to move the analyte from the ground to the excited state. In emission spectroscopy, the emitted radiation is measured, by which the molecule will come back to its ground state from the excited state or higher energy level state. In chemiluminescence spectroscopy, as the name suggests, the analyte is raised to a In chemiluminescence spectroscopy, the analyte is raised to a higher energy state by means of a chemical reaction. As its name suggests, chemiluminescence. Luminance means glow, chemical reactions, emitting characteristic radiation when it returns to a lower energy state. When the chemical reaction results from a biological or enzymatic reaction, the emission of radiation is called bioluminescence. Example, fireflies or jugnu. And example of chemiluminescence is light sticks. In photoluminescence, as its name denotes, photo means photons, luminance, glow. The emission of photons is measured following absorption. The most important forms of photoluminescence for analytical purposes are fluorescence and phosphorescence spectroscopy. Types of interaction. There are of four types: diffraction, refraction, scattering, and dispersion. In dispersion, when white light passes through a prism, it divides into seven different colors of different wavelengths. In diffraction, there is a bending of wave. In refraction, there is a change in the direction of electromagnetic radiation when it passes into different medium. So diffraction is the slight bending of light as it passes around the edge of an object. The amount of bending depends on the relative size of the wavelength of light to the size of the opening, as you can see here. Refraction is the change in direction of a wave passing from one medium to another, or from a gradual change in the medium. In this diagram, refraction is shown. Uh, in dispersion, it is the phenomena in which the phase velocity of a wave depends on its frequency. Example, dispersion of white light through glass prism. Another type of interaction is scattering, in which atoms or molecules which are exposed to light absorb light energy and re-emit light in different direction with different intensity. Spectroscopy can be divided into two broad classes. In one class of techniques, there is a transfer of energy between the photon and the sample, and in the second class, the electromagnetic radiation undergoes a change in amplitude, phase angle, polarization, etc. But there is no transfer of energy between the photon and the sample. Type 1, energy transfer between photon and the sample. I have already discussed the types of energy transfer, that are absorption, emission, photoluminescence and chemiluminescence. The region of electromagnetic spectrum and the spectroscopic techniques are listed in this table. In absorption, the spectroscopic techniques involved are mass spectroscopy, X-ray absorption, UV visible atomic absorption, infrared, Raman, microwave, electron spin resonance, nuclear magnetic resonance. In emission, atomic emission spectroscopy is there. In photoluminescence, energy transfer is observed in X-ray fluorescence, fluorescence spectroscopy, phosphorescence spectroscopy, and atomic fluorescence spectroscopy. Chemiluminescence energy transfer can be observed in chemiluminescence spectroscopy. Type 2, no transfer of energy between photon and the sample. The type of interactions are, as I have already discussed, are diffraction, refraction, scattering, and dispersion. The spectroscopic techniques involved are in diffraction, X-ray diffraction. Uh, Refraction type of interaction can be observed in refractometry, scattering in nephelometry or turbidimetry. Dispersion can be observed in optical rotary dispersion. Now, coming on to the basic components of spectroscopic instruments, as I have already discussed, that we need to excite the molecule, we need to transfer the molecule from the ground state to the excited state. So for this purpose, we need a source of energy. All forms of spectroscopy require a source of energy. In absorption spectroscopy, this energy is supplied by photons. Emission and photoluminescence spectroscopy use thermal, radiant, or chemical energy to promote the analyte to a suitable excited state. Sources of electromagnetic radiations are classified as either continuum or line sources. A continuum source emits radiation over a broad range of wavelength, that is without a break. A line source, on the other hand, emits radiation at selected wavelength. The most common sources of thermal energy are flames and plasmas. Flame sources use the combustion of a fuel and an oxidant to achieve temperatures of 2000 to 3400 Kelvin. Plasmas are hot ionized gases that provide temperatures up to from 6000 to 10,000 Kelvin. Chemical sources of energy includes energy released from exothermic reactions. The common sources of energy, their wavelength region and their purpose is listed in this table. Hydrogen and deuterium lamp, continuum source from 160 to 380 nanometer for molecular absorption. Tungsten lamp, continuum source from 320 to 2400 nanometer molecular absorption. Xenon arc lamp, continuum source from 200 to 1000 nanometer molecular fluorescence. Nernst Glower, continuum source from 0.4 to 20 micrometer for molecular absorption. Glober, continuum source from 1 to 40 micrometer for molecular absorption. Nichrome wire, continuum source from 0.75 to 20 micrometer for molecular absorption, and so on. Wavelength. Why do we need a wavelength selector? For example, if our analyte is in mixture form, so there are different compounds, right? So if we pass on the electromagnetic radiation as it is, so there are different compounds present in the mixture. They'll absorb different radiations and we'll have a complex spectrum. So if we know that our analyte absorb within the range of say for example 300 to 400 nanometer, so we'll apply a wavelength selector and pass only that particular bandwidth to the sample, so that we'll get the simple spectra. So a wavelength selector passes a narrow band of radiation characterized by a nominal wavelength and effective bandwidth and a maximum throughput of radiation. The effective bandwidth is defined as the width of the radiation. Like for example, I was saying 300 to 400 nanometer. So the ideal wavelength selector has a high through output of reaction. Through output of reaction means the source of radiation. High through output of radiations means more source of radiation would pass through the sample. The ideal wavelength selector has a high through output of radiation and a narrow effective bandwidth. A high through output is desirable because more photons pass through the wavelength selector, giving a stronger signal with less background noise. A narrow effective bandwidth provides a higher resolution, but both these properties are contrary to each other. If we increase the through output of radiation, we'll have a broad effective bandwidth, and if we have a narrow effect, if we want a narrow effective bandwidth, so we have to minimize this, like we have to decrease the source of radiation, like we have to select the wavelength. So these two features of the wavelength selector generally are in opposition. Conditions favoring a higher through output of radiation usually provide less resolution. सोर्स ऑफ रेडिएशन अगर मैक्सिमम होगा तो रेजोल्यूशन कम होगा क्योंकि नॉइज ज़्यादा रहेगी. Decreasing the effective bandwidth improves resolution, but at the cost of a noisier signal. So for a qualitative analysis, resolution is usually more important than noise and a smaller effective bandwidth is desirable. In a quantitative analysis, less noise is usually desirable. So that is why we have to choose wavelength using filters. The simplest method for isolating a narrow band of radiation is to use an absorption or interference filter. Absorption filters work by selectively absorbing radiation from a narrow region of the electromagnetic spectrum. Interference filters use constructive and destructive interference to isolate a narrow range of wavelength. A simple example of absorption filter is a piece of colored glass. A purple filter, for example, removes the complementary color green from 500 to 560 nanometer. Commercially available absorption filter provide effective bandwidths of 30 to 250 nanometer, although the through output may be only 10% of the source emission intensity at the low end of this range. Interference filters are more expensive than absorption filters but have narrower effective bandwidth, typically 10 to 20 nanometer, with maximum through output of at least 40%. So if we compare both the filters, interference filter will be more suitable, but they are expensive. So, but in case of filters, there is a limitation. A filter has a fixed nominal wavelength. If you need to make measurements at two different wavelengths, then we have to use two different filters. So an alternative method was discovered, that is a monochromator, for selecting a narrow band of radiation that also allows us to continuously adjust the band's nominal wavelength. Like फिल्टर्स में मुझे पर्टिकुलरली अगर मैंने पर्पल फिल्टर लगाया है तो मैंने जैसे कि बताया था 560 नैनोमीटर तक की वेवलेंथ मुझे मिलेगी, बट इफ़ आई नीड कि मुझे 400 वाली वेवलेंथ भी चाहिए तो मुझे दो फिल्टर्स यूज़ करने पड़ेंगे. बट अगर मैं मोनोक्रोमैटर यूज़ कर रही हूँ तो मैं अब मैन्युअली उसको हैंडल कर सकती हूँ, मैं एडजस्ट कर सकती हूँ अपनी नॉमिनल वेवलेंथ को. Construction of a typical monochromator. Now, this is the schematic diagram of a monochromator in which there is a light source and entrance slit is there, which passes the radiation to the collimating mirror, and the collimating mirror focuses the radiation to the diffraction grating. As I've already told about the diffraction phenomena, it bends the wavelength, it bends the electromagnetic radiation, and it will focus the diffraction and it will focus it into the focusing mirror. Thus, the polychromatic light, polychromatic radiation will be converted into the monochromatic radiation using this monochromator. Monochromators are classified as either fixed wavelength or scanning. In a fixed wavelength monochromator, we select the wavelength by manually rotating the grating. Normally, a fixed wavelength monochromator is used for a quantitative analysis where measurements are made at one or two wavelengths. A scanning monochromator includes a drive mechanism that continuously rotates the grating, allowing successive wavelengths to exit from the monochromator. Scanning monochromators are used to acquire spectra and when operated in a fixed wavelength mode for a quantitative analysis. An interferometer provides an alternative approach for wavelength selection. Instead of filtering or dispersing the EMR, an interferometer allows source radiation of all wavelengths to reach the detector simultaneously. So the through output of the radiation would increase, and also it will increase the effective bandwidth. I will discuss it in detail when I'll discuss about FTIR. Detectors. After passing through the monochromator, the radiation would reach the sample and then it will hit the detector. Modern detector uses sensitive transducer to convert a signal consisting of photons into an easily measured electrical signal. There are two broad classes of spectroscopic transducers, thermal and photon. Photon transducers, phototubes and photomultipliers contain a photosensitive surface that absorb radiation in the UV, visible or near IR region, producing an electrical current proportional to the number of photons reaching the transducer. Means उतना करंट वो जनरेट करेंगे, प्रोड्यूस करेंगे जितना कि ट्रांसड्यूसर तक पहुंच रहा है. इट मीन्स जो सैंपल है उसकी वजह से जो करंट में फ्लक्चुएशन आ रहा है दैट विल बी मेजर्ड. Other photon detectors use a semiconductor as the photosensitive surface. When the semiconductor absorbs photons, valence electrons move to the semiconductor's conduction band, producing a measurable current. Thermal transducers. Infrared photons do not have enough energy to produce a measurable current with a photon transducer. Thus, a thermal transducer is required. The absorption of infrared photons by a thermal transducer increases its temperature, as thermal denotes to temperature, changing one or more of its characteristic properties. Now, this table shows the example of transducers for spectroscopy: phototube, photomultiplier, silicon photodiode, photoconductor, photovoltaic cell, thermocouple, thermistor, pneumatic, pyroelectric, and their wavelength range and output signals in the form of current or change in resistance or voltage or membrane displacement. Signal processor. A transducer's electrical signal is sent to a signal processor where it is displayed in a form that is more convenient for the analyze, like in readable form. Example of signal processor include analog or digital meters, recorders, computers equipped with digital acquisition boards. A signal processor also is used to calibrate the detector's response, like to set the blank that this is the detector's response, and if we put an analyte in that, then that particular instrument, what will be the changes. To amplify the transducer signal, to remove noise by filtering, or to mathematically transform the signal. These are the references, and thank you so much. You can put your queries in the comment box.